And we're live. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Fall Channel, where we will be discussing a variety of topics, although today it is the 100 subscriber special, so we reached 100 subscribers a few months back, and it's been a while for me to return so that we can actually discuss this in a way that means a little bit more to me than not. But we took a little bit of a hiatus for, I think, 3 months. And this is mostly due to the fact of the obligations I have to the MFA program at San Diego State University. And so that took a lot of time to handle. I was both teaching and I was also being a grad student. So that, again, takes a lot of time out of your day to handle and get everything done with that sort of thing. So now we are entering into a whole new paradigm in terms of where we're going to be at for the channel and where we want to be later. Now, I've revitalized some ideas that I want to explore in this really long exploration of sort of the science fiction, fantasy, and horror genres. And I think that's going to be one of the sort of sticking points for me moving forward, is that this channel was always meant to be a channel where we are strictly a speculative fiction channel. We talk about science fiction, fantasy, and horror and the state of it and where we want to go with it and where it's going, regardless of how we feel about it, regardless how the powers that be decide to steer it, and wherever the genre goes is going to go wherever it wants to go. But regardless, I am here, and today begins a 3-episode little special. So we'll start with our 100 subscriber special, and then we'll probably finish a tad bit early so we can hop into our next episode, which will be what if the Star Wars sequels were great. And then we'll finish out the night with an episode about alternate history, a subgenre of the speculative fiction world that is very near and dear to my heart, and probably a little bit too special to me in some regards, but we'll save a lot of that information for later. But for right now, we'll spend probably the next 45 to an hour sort of diving into the whole idea of what this 100 subscriber special and what reaching 100 subscriber means. So reaching 100 subscribers is something that I think most channels don't do. A lot of the channels we see on YouTube, unless you're an AI first channel, which this channel is in some regards AI assisted, AI enhanced, strictly for certain things I can't afford as a small time creator that, can't do it. Now, the problem I think is when AI, we'll get to the topic of AI, I'm sure at some point during this special, but again, I don't write scripts. A lot of the time I'm communicating off the cuff and I'm trying to hit predetermined bullet points. So lately I've been thinking about using this channel and I guess anything else I want to do strictly for improving the human aspect of creation and world building. And I don't want to get away from that. However, I don't want to be a channel that sort of tells somebody that they can't do something. And so this will always be an open channel. This will always be a channel that's willing to go the extra mile for the people that I think need it most. So eventually we'll be launching more video content, more long form video essays, hopefully on Mondays, and then short videos that'll clip out stuff from the live streams or clip out stuff from the video essays and then shoot those out on the shorts on Wednesdays. Now that's the whole grand vision of the channel. And at the moment, reaching 100 subscribers is, again, something that not a lot of channels do. Because I think most of the channels on YouTube, if we can call it channels, I guess, are just people passively watching content. And the few channels that end up getting to 100, the channels that get to 1,000, channels get to 1,000,000. Now, there's a wide gulf between where we're at now and where we want to be. Now, I revised the goal for this channel. This year, I'm going to make the ultimate kind of grandiose goal of trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. And I made that same goal last year, but then again, I wasn't hitting it probably anywhere near as hard as I think I should. So now that we're a little bit further on into our basically a year of time on this YouTube channel, and reaching 100, may not be too impressive to some, but I think it's still something. So got a couple of comments I should address. So Suzanne congratulated us on 100 subscribers. Thank you, Suzanne. And DJ Play Nice also is congratulating us on the 100. And again, the first of many. So the goal for this year, like it was last year, is 1,000. Now we're going to be shooting out a lot more content over the next few months. A lot more live streams, a lot more video essays. Now the video essays are probably going to take a little bit longer to create because just in general, those have been the thing that take me the longest to actually work through. So it's going to be a little bit of a longer summer. So the plan is to produce a lot of this content in batches. So I'll probably do a little bit of it in the beginning of my summer and then a little bit more of it in the beginning of fall. And then that should get us through the whole year. And then ideally, the subject matter that we discuss, the topics we explore, are interesting enough for people to want to subscribe. And obviously, we'll do a call to action every time we have a chance. So, if you're out there, please, like, comment, subscribe. It does help the channel out. There's going to be a glut of AI channels popping up, I'm sure, with the advent of Google VO3. So we're going to be in a sea, and we're going to be hopefully not one end of a chorus. We need to do everything we can to separate ourselves from now that's going to be the bulk of the competition. So that's going to be a challenge. But exactly, and that's going to be the main issue I'm seeing DJ Play Nice, because I think right now I understand why things are going the way they're going. I mean, I brought up the topic of AI a little bit ago. I have no problem with AI as a concept. In certain respects, it can be good for certain automation of certain things that take a long time and are kind of tedious. Now that's fine. And I think it's really good in terms of like pre-writing and then revising some stuff. But when you're writing the actual content, like when you're scripting something or you're doing something that involves a little bit more of a human touch, it's those things that we need to not move away from. Those need to not be automated tasks. Those need to 100% be human-oriented tasks. And that's what I don't want to get away from. I do want to make it to where whatever thing we're doing in terms of AI, I mean, we experimented with AI on this channel with AI text to video stuff. That was in its early iteration about a year ago. And that was kind of how we launched the channel. It was mostly experiments to see how they actually worked. And for the most part, I wasn't too big of a fan, but that was just a year ago. And those videos weren't that good. But now we have these things that are coming out that are almost indistinguishable from reality. And that's the kind of thing that I think is utterly insane. And I'm curious to see where we're going to be in a year. I mean, the goal for this channel is to hit 1,000 by the end of the year. And then our broader goal by 2030, 2032, probably 2032, because I like kind of a rounder number because I'll be 40 then. So it'd be kind of cool if somehow this really small channel was able to hit 1,000,000 by the time I turn 40. So that's a little bit 7 years out. Anything can happen. I think that's a little bit more of a thing where we could potentially fall into this tract where we end up sort of under promising and then over delivering, or even, you never know with these things. But the goal for this channel is to not become a small channel. The goal for this channel is to become a larger voice in the science fiction fantasy and community, or science fiction fantasy and horror community. and we want to make sure that we create an avenue where science fiction, fantasy, and horror can be more appreciated in this now emerging crazy landscape we're going to find ourselves in. Because I feel like there's no reason why science fiction, fantasy, and horror cannot be taken seriously at the moment. It is, I think, one of the greatest triumphs of literature to have birthed this series of genres that can reflect on the human experience in ways that standard fiction cannot. And I 100% believe, a million percent believe, that if we start doing it, other channels will do it, and then there'll be sort of a mini feedback loop between all these channels trying to say new things that will actually make a difference. And I've seen tons of people, independent creators who are like me and they can't afford a giant staff, they can't afford an editor, like a video editor, they can't afford, tons of these things. In this new era of filmmaking, of creation, does democratize a lot of the skills that we otherwise wouldn't have had. Now, there was a comment that was made by Moist Critical Charlie, and he was saying that the only thing stopping people, like the people who are saying that AI is going to democratize creativity, are wrong. And I think that his point was largely about it serving the need of basically getting lazy people to start, doing things. And that's where I kind of disagree. I think that it's not about lazy people now having the tools to be lazier. It's about having people like me who have no money, who have no backing. I'm not a major corporation. I'm just a guy from Southern California that is trying to run down a dream, as they say. And that's what I want, is to empower other people to use their creativity in a way that is most powerful and the most impactful. And that, to me, I think is a better way to go. And that's why I think AI, or any AI conversation, has to be centered around the human, and it has to be centered around people, not profit. Because ultimately, the AI that we see today is actually, I believe, the seeds that will be sowed to the destruction of capitalism as we see it. Now, the thing is, I'm not against capitalism. In fact, I think of myself as a capitalist. But there's a way to do it ethically that I think the Nordic countries exceed in, that we, for some reason, in the United States just haven't gotten to yet. And that is the kind of linchpin that I think will help us out if we actually attack it at the right point. So there's a giant problem in today's society for convenience culture. Now, everybody wants everything fast. Everybody wants everything convenient. Now, that is, I think, the biggest detriment to AI as we stand to see it today. And I think that if we do it right, the only people who will lose their jobs, conceivably, are the CEOs at the top who don't realize that their jobs can easily be replaced too by the same machines that can take the jobs of every other white collar worker. So I think we stand at quite the precipice of an amazing future, as long as we are the ones that stand at the forefront and do our best to ensure that that future can be created. Because at the moment that we stand in right now, it's the corporations who are mostly the ones that are going to decide how the AI is used, and that's going to be a whole giant problem unto itself. So, yeah, we're at a very interesting point, because if everything becomes automated, everything becomes, an AI generated thing, because pretty much that's where they're heading right now. You have AI text to video, AI text to audio, AI pretty much everything. You have Gemini, you have Claude, DeepSeek, ChatGPT. Now, the one I use periodically is ChatGPT. Now, I use it strictly for feedback purposes, because I am curious to think what the thing would think of it. Now, the ChatGPT does not think for itself. It simply looks at patterns and then kind of looks at the broader audience that's out there, and because it can look at the market cap and sort of see where everything is. And that's the kind of thing that I think is worth considering, especially as a small time creator, because you obviously don't want to go for the trends, and you obviously don't want to go for, writing your content strictly to, be swept up in the rest of the chorus. You want to do your own thing. You want to be independent. You want to make work that is impactful and meaningful. Because that's what it is to create. So, in my eyes, the only way to succeed in a world that's vastly becoming faker, more fickle, and more convenience cultured is to do the opposite and do things that are not necessarily out of convenience, but help you think or see things in ways that otherwise you wouldn't be able to otherwise. Now, I'm a big fan of lateral thinking. I'm more of a fan of thinking outside the box. And I think a lot of times people choose the path of least resistance because it's obviously, again, the path of least resistance. It's easier. It's not as challenging for some. And I think a lot of that, um, it leads to that low stakes culture that I talk about a lot in my own teaching. Because I mean, as a teacher, as a teaching associate at San Diego State, I'm constantly surprised by how we treat our students, how other people treat their students. Now, again, I'm not blaming all teaching associates I work with. It's even beyond just them. It's regular faculty as well, and we all see it. I think to some degree, and some of us I don't even think are even cognizant of it happening because I think it's a culture wide problem. And to me, the main point of the problem is this idea that our kids are treated like they're less intelligent, so you end up creating an expectation in the student that they themselves are not good enough or they're not smart enough, and so they get ingrained in their minds that they need to do something to try harder, to learn more, to even cheat the system in order to gain an advantage. And they shouldn't be feeling that way in any sort of way. And yet we've created this culture to where that is the only way they can actually operate and the only way they can actually get anything done. And that is, I believe, part of the reason why our culture is going the way it is in the West. Um, I mean, it's insane. I mean, we treat our kids like they're less intelligent, so they end up growing up into less intelligent adults. And it's that low stakes culture that I will not stand for in my own work or, you know, teaching or any sphere that I'm associated with. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fool and I believe in the better angels of our society. I believe that we are only as good as the people who lift us up. And I try my best to be that kind of a person. Now, with the next few months, the next semester coming up, next semesters, I still have another 2 years. We just finished our first year at the MFA program at San Diego State. We have a couple more years to go. And then at the end of that, what's going to happen? So I get a title, MFA, Master of Fine Arts. So tons of writers have them. You don't need them to become a writer, but I mean, they help, I think. Some people disagree with that notion, but there's a big change happening in academia where the AI situation, getting back to the AI, is starting to get it to where these students are trying to gain an advantage through using the AI to generate whole essays, whole pretty much any sort of thing. And there's an emergency vehicle out there somewhere. I assure you, I live in a very relatively nice area here in San Diego. Very interesting. But anyway, so with that said, I'm thinking that the change we're going to have is toward moving us outside the mindset that school has always been this vector for just getting us a job. And I think that mentality has caused us the most trouble, which is if we constantly see school as a method to get a job, then we're not seeing it for any other reason that it could be useful for. And as far as I'm aware, I think it can be useful for personal enrichment. It can be worth the enhancement of soft skills, enhancement of hard skills. The purpose of school should go beyond just getting a job. It should be a holistic sort of exploration in being who you could be or how you can be your best self. And I think that's where we need to be. That's where we need to go. And that's partly what one of my four basic pillars of being a teacher that I drafted out in my exploration of academia. kind of covers. So for me, it's like we need to get back to practical skills in education. Like we need to get back to teaching cooking. We need to get back to auto repair in the school, learning how taxes work, how to file them, how to do stuff like that. It'll become more important, especially since kids are now allowed more and more frequently to work at age 15 in special circumstances. Even though when I was younger, I think you could start work at about 16. So I mean, at that point, it's like, yeah, you should start to learn how to pay your taxes and get all that done, and also to maximize the amount of taxes you can get back. But yeah, practical skills, creativity, critical thinking, and civic engagement. Because one of the things I think is sort of fading from the United States now. I'm not a big fan. I used to be. There's a little bit of nostalgia that I have for the Pledge of Allegiance, but I don't think that the Pledge of Allegiance is necessarily, you know, I think we can leave that in the past or maybe have an addition. I think we need to, if we're going to say anything or do anything in the morning during class, it should really be something like the preamble to the Constitution. Because, I mean, that's the best way to start a day, I think, because you would basically be stating what the entire goal of this entire society is, which is to look after, the safety and security of everyone we have around us and pursue the life, liberty, and happiness. So it's all of these things that I think we need to start getting back to as a society. And some people would say you need to couch this in, some sort of religious dogma, and I disagree. I think America is a secular society, and I'd rather keep it that way. But there's an even broader conversation to be had about where do we want society, what do we want society to even be, 50 to 100 years. And I think that's a lot of why science fiction, fantasy, and horror, something I gravitate toward as a creator. Because it gets me not, I don't want to escape into this world. I want to envision a better tomorrow and then manifest it in reality. That to me is not escapism. That is to me making imagination real. And to me, that's the true power of anything creative, anything human. And I don't know if AI will ever get to a point where it can actually do any of that. And I'd be really surprised if it ever could, because I'm not really on board with a lot of these tech bro types. I think I'm kind of pro AI with caveats because I don't think that they need to be the ones that control it. It should be average people who do. And yeah, that's the thing that's sticking out for me most of the time. So with the 100 episode or 100 subscriber episode, um, take a little sneak peek behind the curtain and explore a little bit of kind of the things that I like to do on this channel. So one of the things that I've done so far to revamp some of the newer um, thumbnails is to use imagery generation that we get from stuff on ChatGPT, but also marry that with Canva. So it's only a few images that appear from there, and then we augment the rest of it through Canva. And up until recently, it was on Canva Pro. So all the fonts, all the stylistic effects that you see in the fonts are generated from Canva, and then we marry the two together, and then that's how we create the thumbnails. Now, it's not a very impressive process. It's actually pretty simple, not too involved, but for me, I think that's the kind of thing that is a little more eye catching because that's ultimately what you want out of a thumbnail is to get something that's eye catching enough to where you want to watch the video, and then you want to watch the video until it finishes so that you can hopefully interest whoever is watching to watch the next thing. And that's the biggest hurdle, I think, with a lot of the way we've done these videos. So we took a few months off, like I said, because it's very, very, very complicated to run a YouTube channel while you're doing your spring semester and you're teaching 18 kids or whatever. But I don't want to use that as a crutch. Ultimately, I think the goal for me as somebody who's going to be a future instructor of some kind. Um, yeah, I don't want to get away from sort of the larger discussions that we could be having. So now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, so with all of that, we'll cover all the rest of the concepts as we go along. But um, I want this channel to become more active as we go on. I want us to have more conversations. I'll be posting more polls in the future, and we'll be posting a lot more long form videos, talking about some similar topics that we talk about on the show right now. So we'll be bringing back my podcast that I was running at the end of last year, and we'll be splitting it into more than one version of it. So on Fridays we'll be airing, uh, you know, these live streams will become and evolve into more discussions with people that I know in the industry, that I know, writers I know, filmmakers I know, and these will be kind of like hour-long spotlight episodes. And that would be kind of a talk show aspect of that part. And then I would do another thing where there's like a discussion series of podcast episodes, and then we would dive into more of a communication based thing based on some of the things I've seen with the viewers we have, and some of the recurring ones that pop in from time to time. So now the other thing too is that I don't want to really make this channel into a review channel, like a film, TV, or movie or whatever review channel. I want to keep that to a minimum, and so I'm going to be posting reviews of movies, TV shows, video games, books, whatever the case is, in short form on the Shorts tab. So the shorts that I do produce are going to be just like tiny little clips that discuss what I thought about a film. Now we're going to go back to the beginning of the year and probably post a few of these through the month, and hopefully that gives us a little bit more of a subscriber bump. We'll see what happens. And then yeah, because I feel like the best move for us right now to gain more subscribers is going to be to refocus our efforts on shorts and long form videos. But both have to be high quality, or at least intriguing enough for people to want to return to. So the bulk of my audience is kind of all over the place. Seems to be mostly American and British. So that's okay. But we want to go out and try our best to see who else we can attract to this new movement. So I hope you'll all join us for that, and yeah, keep us going. So I do want to say that over the next few months, I mean, we're going to be sticking this out for the next several years. And so whatever our goals end up being at the end of the year, if we achieve it or if we don't, we're just going to push on further until we hit that goal. And yeah, see where we're at. I mean, like I said, I've gamed it out. End of this year, if we can hit 1,000, and the next year hit 5, and a year after that 10K. And sometimes these things move algorithmic or logarithmically, so we might see certain jumps in subscriber counts that we can't anticipate. But again, this would be an exponential rise until 2032, when we would hit 1 million subscribers. Now, if we hit 1 million, that would be something. And now, if we don't, that's also something. So I don't know if it's possible, but I would say my conservative goal is to achieve 100,000 subscribers by 2032. But my more enthusiastic, hopeful goal is to hit 1 million by 2032. Now, if we hit 1 mil, I think we would have done something amazing. I think we would be a force in the science fiction, fantasy, and horror communities, and we would be able to make certain moves that I want us to make, which is create content, create our own videos that are long form video, like our own TV shows, our own movies, our own books, and we can just have this sort of ecosystem that the rest of the readership and viewership can enjoy. But now ad time. So the fall show in this 100 subscribers special is brought to you by Vega Aerospace. Vega Aerospace. In space. No one can hear you. And now back to the show. So again, we're in a little bit of an interesting time right now, and that's why I'm very enthusiastic about the kind of work we can do. And in the past, I've had a list of tons of films, movies, and uh, video games that I've wanted to create through my work on my channels. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing moving forward. What do we want to create? And then what kind of stories get more traction? So, in the next few weeks, pretty much over the course of the summer, I'm going to be posting more of the content that we produce as a channel, as a sort of creative company. And I'm going to be speaking with friends of mine that I am very, very connected to who want to join in on some of it. And I think that's going to be the thing that is going to save us from falling into irrelevance. But in case none of you have gotten the word, a few things are happening to me that are pretty good, I think. So I'm going to spend the rest of the summer writing a bunch of short stories that I intend to send out to a ton of different publishers, including Clark's World, Analog, and Asimov Science Fiction. I've already been published in a few periodicals. I've been published in Midsummer Dream House by my friend Emma Rose here in San Diego. I used the short story Museum of Alternate Worlds. It's actually one of my favorite stories I've written. I wrote it after a visit to the Museum of Jurassic Technology in Culver City out here in LA. And I don't know, something about it just sent me on a brain blast that I just had to get that down onto paper. And yeah, when I finished it, I submitted it to, or an earlier version of it, I sent it to uh, the short fiction class at Cal State Long Beach, and everybody enjoyed it. And then I felt like that story needed a home after I graduated. And I'm very grateful to my friend Emma Rose for going the extra mile and publishing it and posting it as part of her issue 4. It's available on Amazon if you like. I could post it in the description for anyone who's interested. Beyond that, I was also published at the end of last year in the anthology Dragon Dreams. I submitted a story called Dragon Dash, which is the first time I've ever written anything that had to do with fantasy. And I will say, if I had to rank them, even though this is a science fiction, fantasy, and horror channel with periodic exploration of world building, we're kind of an ungodly like hodgepodge between Quinn's ideas, the Templin Institute, and Space Dock. So if anybody's familiar with any of those channels, we're kind of doing the same thing, but we're doing it a little differently, and probably a little bit more grounded, I guess, in our approach. Yeah, no, Dragon Dreams was my first, or Dragon Dash was my first exploration into writing anything in fantasy. And fantasy, in terms of like where I rank it in terms of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, for me, science fiction is definitely my favorite, my most favorite of the three. And then the second is probably horror, with fantasy in a slightly lower. I don't want to say distant third, but it's not as close in terms of relation. But at the current moment, I have published that fantasy short story. I even count the Museum of Alternate Worlds as a fantasy entry, not so much a science fiction entry. And even though there's some aspects of it that are supposed to be science fiction, but ultimately I think it's a fantasy more than not, because obviously there's no way that could actually happen. Physics and quantum mechanics would preclude any of that. So it is fantasy in some regards. But So I'm a fantasy short story author, and then I've been assisting one of my friends out on a few of his films lately. I sent some emails out this morning about it. Um, and I've been helping him with a lot of his work. And one of the films that he's doing is a horror film. And there's another horror film, actually quite a few, that I decided to help contribute to when I was a little more frequent on the Kickstarter campaigns. And I'll probably restart that in the fall as well. I think it certainly does help my IMDb resume, so my filmography. So yeah, I've produced a ton at this point, maybe half a dozen horror films. I think only a few of them have been have appeared on IMDb as evidence, but you can see a lot of them on my Kickstarter if that was something that you chose to look at. But yeah, it's just it's very surprising to me that I'm a horror film producer, a fantasy short story author, and I've done nothing except do this channel to promote science fiction. I mean, I have a ton of science fiction ideas, and you'll be seeing them. A few of them have been posted on this channel as well. But yeah, I haven't done anything to where we can actually produce any of that content just yet. But that'll be part of the goal as we move forward. Now, one of the things that I do have on my agenda is to explore the how the dynamics are going to go when I decide to finally publish a lot more of my work. So there are a few short films I'm planning to shoot over the next couple of years. Probably some of them will be produced with the assistance of Kickstarter, since at this point I have over 50 crowdfunding campaigns that I've helped, and each one of them, in fact, all of them, have been funded. There's not a single Kickstarter campaign that I fund or contributed to that has ever gone unsuccessfully funded. Now, I don't know what that means, or if I'm just picking the right ones, or I don't know, gaming the right system in some way. But either way, that's kind of it defies possibility that none of the things that I've supported have gone unsuccessful. So, with that said, I am planning on doing something where I won't be doing any feature length films for a little bit, probably not until the 2030s, unless some money comes into our pockets that we can actually fund such a thing. But at the moment, I think we're in a good place for where we want to go in terms of the short films. Now, obviously, I can't be present for most of the shooting. If we don't shoot it here in San Diego, we'd have to shoot it in LA, where I still know some people. But that's going to be the challenge, I think, is to corral everyone we need to get down here, or for me to go up there. So it's unlikely I can do that during the spring or fall, but I'll definitely make an effort in at least the summer. So yeah, just thinking about it feels very daunting to me. But yeah, with that said, some of the things that I do plan to release in the coming years will be um, from my Fall of the American Republic trilogy. So we have the first volume of that, which is The American Dictator, which I wanted to submit for publication last year through Amazon. I opted against it strictly because we were right before the election, and I didn't really want to submit something that would be, not that it would be controversial or anything. Sometimes that can be good for money, for revenue. But yeah, I didn't know how that race was going to turn out. And there was a part of me that felt that if Kamala won, then my American Dictator story would seem kind of quaint and it wouldn't be as successful. But now the paradigm has shifted so that I'm thinking that there's a lot of people afraid of Trump, that I could actually gain a bump in popularity because of it. So maybe it was a good idea to hold it back. But again, that's a trilogy, so that would be the first book I'm planning to release on July 4th, 2026, which coincides with the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States of America, which I think is a shot across the bow for a certain presidential administration. But the year afterwards, the second volume in that series, The American Caesar, that'll be coming sometime in the summer of 2027, which oddly enough will be the summer that I graduate from the MFA program. And then we'll be submitting for publication for the final book in that series for the summer, probably around right before the national conventions in 2028. So that one's going to be more of a yearly thing. And then the long-term plan after that is to publish all the Bathtub King of Palm Springs books. So there's that. But I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. Because the Bathtub King of Palm Springs is a little bit weird. And I don't know if it's going to have the same amount of people interested in it. But every single person loves it. I think that's probably my most popular story. People really enjoy that one. Probably because of the humor. Although I do envision that to end up being about a 5-book series when the time comes. It's surreal comedy set in the 90s, 2000s. So I don't know. I think it would be a successful thing if we do it right. And then there's my big one, my magnum opus, the Explorer Sagas, which used to be called From the Earth to the Stars. And I think I'm going to go ahead and reveal that that's a really long series. Like there's a lot of books I have planned for it, even though it's set in this alternate timeline, and that's going to be kind of a challenge for some readers who I don't think really like having that level of, I don't know what you want to call it, not ambiguity, but complexity. So I don't know if we're going to do that too much, but we'll see. And then my fourth major thing is the Fluxverse. And I look forward to what everyone thinks of that when that comes out. I mean, it's already kind of releasing. If you go to the Twitter account FOSA, FOSA _gov, and you follow it pretty much at the beginning of the week and the end of the week, yeah, you'll see some very interesting things. And yes, it all leads to something bigger. So don't let that dissuade you. But beyond that, yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that we got to this point, that we were able to do a show and do this channel. And yeah, I hope that those of you watching on the replay, or even watching now, know that it's going to be an exciting future. And I'm glad to have you along for the ride. I assure you it will be worth it. And I assure you that you will not be disappointed by where we go. So I hope you stick around, and I hope that you keep going with us on this journey. So with that being said, I'm going to close out this episode, but I'll be back in about 15 minutes, and we'll be diving into our next topic, which is what if the Star Wars sequels were great? That one's going to be kind of a mix of narrative and kind of an autopsy. So if that's kind of your thing, join us at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You will not be disappointed. We will continue on with the next episode after that. This is a 3-episode day. So today was the first episode, or this 5 o'clock was the first episode, our 100 subscriber special. And then the second episode, what if the Star Wars sequels were great? And then at 7, we will be diving into our final episode of the night, which covers alternate history, the subgenre that is one of my favorite subgenres. So with that being said, I hope you take a little bit of a break. If you need to use the restroom, do whatever you need to do. Join us again in a short while. You will not be disappointed. And yeah, as I always say, don't panic. Don't forget your towel. And so long. And thanks for all the fish. But we will see you in a short while. So don't leave in general, but definitely come back shortly.